It is a great honor for me to be here among so many friends, old and new. I congratulate you on your brilliantly reinstalled galleries of ancient art. I remember years ago having installed the galleries not as well, so hats off to you. Where familiar ancient reminders of our shared commitment to preserving the aesthetic legacy of the ancient Mediterranean world continue to delight and inspire all those who see them. I want to thank Michael Tomore as well for his strong leadership in realizing this impressive display of a collection that will surely continue to remind us all of the heavy debt we owe to the ancient Egyptians, the Greeks, the Etruscans, the Romans, and a vast diversity of other traditions and cultures that form the foundations of a world we largely now take for granted. Looking round these new, sparkling new galleries might leave the impression to some that this display has somehow always been here. Okay? Somehow always been here. After all, hasn't the Tampa Museum of Art always been known for its Antiquities collection? One of the top 4 in the southeastern US, along with the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, the Michael C. Carlos Museum at Emory University, and the Houston Museum of Fine Arts. This collection has become, to use a familiar phrase, cultural patrimony of the Tampa Bay region. It is notable and fitting that Tampa is the sister city of both Agrigento, Sicily, and Heraklion, Greece, reminding us of the demographics of the Tampa Bay, home to tens of thousands of Sicilian Americans, and also, here in the Bay Area, the largest Greek community in America, founded by Greek immigrants from the Dodecanese Islands, who became sponge fishermen in Tarpon Springs. But here in America, we appreciate that culture is as much a choice as it is a birthright. Culture does not respect political borders, and as Herodotus, I always like to quote Herodotus, it's my, I don't know, let's say, it's a mark of every one of my talks, so Herodotus has to come in here. The 5th century Greek father of history said, quote, "Everyone, without exception, believes the customs and religion of his own country to be the best." End of quote. So here in the Tampa Bay, at the Tampa Museum of Art, the ancient world continues to inspire and instruct. In a nation that celebrates the immigrant experience and the freedom to choose and embrace cultural traditions that resonate far outside their so-called countries of origin. But as fitting as it is to have this superb collection of antiquities here at the TMA, they did not arrive by accident. Oh no, one man is largely responsible for them being here. William Knight Zewadski, passionate art collector and my dear friend of some 3 decades. We would not even be talking about antiquities today if it were not for him. We all know Bill as the one who can be relied on to have done his homework. The one who has carefully thought through the implications of every situation, both current and perhaps just down the road. The tireless advocate for the public role of the visual arts and for the role of the collector in the cultural traditions we still hold dear. We all know the expression, the knowing smile, followed by the torrent of well-considered facts. Let me just regale you with a few of these. You'll all remember these. Quote, the best collection of classical antiquities south of Richmond and east of San Antonio. Or, the greatest display of theater-related antiquities outside of the Archaeological Museum of Lipari. Oh my gosh. Let's see, what else we have here? Oh yes. Or, quote, the TMA has, on average, added more than one antiquity to its collection per month over the last 42 years. Or, quote, we have the largest dedicated endowment for Greek and Roman art in the United States. That's true. Or, quote, since 1982, over 2 million people have seen the public display of antiquities at the TMA. Or, and this is my personal favorite, quote, eminent scholars from 10 countries have traveled to the TMA to deliver lectures. From Greece, Italy, Switzerland, Germany, the UK, Canada, Australia, the Netherlands, France, and the United States. I love how he adds the United States at the end to round out the number 10. It was in May of 1982 that Bill authored his now historic polemic, written in the classic BZ voice, urgent, informed by assembled facts, and providing a clear roadmap forward. It was titled, quote, The Importance of the Joseph Veitch Noble Collection of Classical Antiquities for the Tampa Museum, end of quote. Let me quote the second paragraph of this masterful piece of persuasion. Quote, the Noble Collection is made up, in part, of over 100 vases selected with great care to illustrate the range of form, technique, and style of Greek vase painting and vase sculptural forms. Since Greek art survives to us, he says, mainly from vases and some rare examples of stone and bronze sculpture, these vases are a primary source for our knowledge of the Greek roots of our own civilization. The Noble Collection in this one area, this is the part I really love, the Noble Collection in this one area succeeds in breadth and excellence the holdings of all other museums in the Western Hemisphere. Oh yeah. Except perhaps, he says parenthetically, except perhaps half a dozen who have, formed their collections over several generations. Right? Okay, that's brilliant. So I love this, Bill. I really love this. Yes, the Noble Collection tops all other public vase collections in the Western Hemisphere. This is true. Except perhaps those at the Met, the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, or outside the Western Hemisphere, perhaps those of the British Museum, the Louvre, the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna, the Antike Sammlung in Munich, Oxford University, or, again, in the Western Hemisphere, possibly, of course, a number of university collections, like those of Harvard, Yale, Princeton, the University of Pennsylvania, or the J. Paul Getty Museum. But, never mind, aside from those old collections, given the completely unfair advantage of time and resources, come on, give us a break. The Noble Collection stands alone. We can say that. Love it. Whew, that deserves a drink. I mean, excuse me. Took a lot out of me. Bill is the most assiduous keeper of records of anyone I have met. Thanks to him, I am able to report the following. It's all Bill, not me. May 1981. First ancient vase purchased with funds donated by the donor group Friends of the Arts at Sotheby's, New York. for the TMA. January 20th, 1984. Zewadski prepared his assessment of the growth of the classical collection to date, listing the programs and lectures, tours, and publications. It also noted that 12 items of classical art were in the museum's permanent collection, half by gift, and that 9 families in the area had begun collections of classical materials, says Bill. September 1984. Zewadski published his first effort, South Italian Vases in Tampa Bay Collections. This is not a small feat. Now, and this is not just an expression of a dilettante. I mean, it really gets me because Bill did not just collect, but he took it seriously. And he became a self-taught scholar and a published scholar. Let's see. Oh, February 1986, contract for the Joseph Veach Noble Collection signed proposing to buy his collection for the bargain price of $1 million. $250,000 was paid on signing, Bill says, and I should add that the purchase of the Noble Collection involved an unprecedented combination of funding sources, city, county, state, and private. Bill was prophetic. He said of the Noble Collection, this is a quote, "It would be inspiring and important for Tampa and represents an important goal if Tampa is to have the cultural resources befitting its status as America's next great city." Hear, hear, Bill. Well said and well done. You are a treasure. A treasure. So with that, let me... Now, I believe Bill called me, or I called him, or I don't remember which. We practically spoke every day, and he said, "You know what? I was in Amsterdam, and I saw some beautiful bronzes there, and it was in a new gallery called Archea. Vincent Geerling was the dealer there." And I said, "Oh, really? Huh? Yeah, that's fantastic." And so he said, "You want to see the photos?" I said, "Yeah." Well, those are the days when you had to hand deliver photographs. So he came over and showed me the photographs. I said, "Wow, what an interesting group of objects." I had just finished my book, my first book, on the relationship between Homeric poetry and personal ornaments of the 8th century BC, and I noticed this little triangular object down there, which I had identified for the first time. That is actually not a pendant or a pectoral. It's actually a belt pendant because we now have evidence that they were deposited in female graves in northern Greece right over the pectoral bone of the occupant. And in the Homeric epics, this is called a zone. The Greek word is zone. It represents the sexual prowess of women in the Homeric epics. Aphrodite, Hera, Calypso, Circe all wear this object. And I said, "I have to have one of these for the Tampa Museum." Are you kidding me? I said, "Bill, that's fantastic." And then he said, "Oh, we have these 2 bracelets." And you might look at them and go, "Well, they're pretty plain. No biggie," except they're not. I'm sorry, they're not. There are very, very few pairs of these objects. Bronco, I can't wait to see them on display. They're wonderful. But they're wonderful objects. There you go. Oh, they are on display. I'm glad to see them on display. So is the zone. All right. You're the greatest. So anyway, I was so thrilled about getting these. We put them on display, and I start talking about this subject. And as anyone who knows me will say, I can take a very small subject and make a big deal out of it. You know, that's basically what I do. You know, I try to do that. And that's what we've done with this subject, which I think is those early beginnings, this early beginning, Bill Zewadski's introduction and his kind of connection to me, with me, of these objects, began a career-long interest in the geometric period, which culminated in 2020 in an exhibition called From Chaos to Order, Greek Geometric Art, from the Saul Rabin collection. Saul Rabin was a very long-term friend of mine. Mike Padgett knows him well. We organized this exhibition. It traveled to 3 venues. It was slated to travel to 3 venues. It had a publication, and Saul, of course, I was very, very proud of this little Zone that I bought until I realized that Saul had 12. I mean, Anyway, all those years later, let's see what I'm trying to think now, 25 years later, I'm still thinking about this subject, Bill. And when I mentioned this to Bill, this is some indication of how vast his knowledge is and how vast his interests are, that he said, oh yeah, I think I remember that, those objects, oh yeah, and he reminded me that we had lunch with Vincent Geerling in Amsterdam, with David Gordon Mitten during the International Congress of Classical Archaeology, where Bill Zewadski delivered a scholarly lecture at my insistence. He was the only lecturer who finished on time, because that's Bill Zewadski. And we had a very lovely lunch with David and Vincent, and I just want to say one more time that I feel fortunate to have known you right out of graduate school, and for anybody else in the audience who is a collector, keep collecting. Museums like ours are indebted to you. Collecting is a noble passion. It serves a public service. It saves the ancient past. And without that, we would not have the great collections that we see all around the world, that are in every history book. So hats off to you, Bill. Thank you.